Class is in session.
Run.
And now, for your professors.
So it's a very cool looking chicken.
I'm pretty sure this is a cryptid, but am I wrong and I'm just being played and this is a rooster?
You should,
As soon as you acknowledge that you're defying gravity, that's when you're screwed.
Kill them, rip off heads, set on fire.
Evil versus evil, I guess.
maybe it's just not very good at math.
The Night Scholars.
Welcome, once again, to the Night Scholars. How about that new intro, huh? Anyway, I'm Andrew,
I'm Ashton.
And I'm Sean.
and today we are talking about everyone's favorite seal people, the Selkies.
So before we get into that, I was just curious. The other day I was totally sober and I cut myself and I was like, I used to be taught that I need to just suck out the blood. And then my friend just kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? Have either of you been taught to do that, or is that just a bit of my vampire past? I mean,
Oh, no.
alleged vampire past.
That is absolutely your vampire past. I have never heard sucking the blood out of your own wound.
So, if there's some type of toxin in it, like venom from a snake bite, yeah, I was taught to that. You suck the venom out, spit it out before it can circulate fully into your bloodstream.
Cool,
I
cool.
was told
So,
not to do
like,
that.
for every situations, that is so normal, right?
Not exactly normal. Most times, you just get a Band-Aid or something to soak it up. But I guess if you don't have anything to stop the bleeding, I guess that's one way so that you don't bleed everywhere.
Neat. I just needed to make sure that I was doing things to appear. So
Uh,
seal people, right? Speaking of things really fully human, what we got today?
So today we're going over the Selkie, which is a Scottish. I don't know if I'd call it a cryptid. Maybe spirit, kinda
fair word for it.
creature.
Entity?
Entity
I
works.
guess
'Cause entity
depending
could be
on
physical.
how much you take it as a metaphor, you take it as a real living.
Based on how much you were thirsting over the Selkie in the group chat before this episode, I would say you definitely take it as a real thing.
I mean, the Selkies are known. Like a Selkie is known to be like incredibly attractive to the human eye. Like in their human form, they are considered very attractive humans.
Also, better singers than the sirens, from what I've read. Like their
Yeah.
songs
Well, they're
are
not
beautiful.
malicious.
No, not usually.
No,
Yeah,
they're
but
actually
yes.
very what's the word? Kind of benevolent creatures, right?
Yeah.
Just want to live their
And
life.
they are also very beautiful singers.
I've read one account that said the song of the Selkie is the clearest and most precious song you'll ever hear.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that it's like a mournful image as they watch over like the ocean. Because every single Selkie, um, going into it a little bit, the Selkie is able to live both in the water and on the shore, and but its heart always just looks for the sea. And they kind of also represent lives that are lost at sea, and that's kind of like why they are so drawn to it, and like why they just have like this connection to it that's like mournful. It's like it's not just like what they have lost, like if their seal skin gets stolen, which we'll go into later, but also just kind of like a love lost.
Yeah.
It's not. They're more likely to appear to somebody who's lost somebody at sea.
Oh, I did not see
Or,
that. That makes no sense.
or in the case of the male Selkie, a fisherman's wife who longs for his return from the sea.
Yeah.
But it's usually something to do something to do with a strong connection to the sea.
No.
The stronger your connection, the more likely you are to find a Selkie.
Yeah, it makes me wonder like why come to the shore in the first place?
Curiosity.
Well, part of it could also be because of uh their backstory and how they were created.
What'd you find? Because I can only trace them back to references to the 13th century.
No, I mean you see the Selkies are the children of the Sea King and Sea Queen.
That makes sense.
Uh, there was a evil sea witch that turned the Sea King and Queen's children into seals, making them the Selkie, and they were no longer able to return to the Sea King's kingdom. So they'd
You're talking
lost
about
their home.
Ursula.
See, that makes more sense than what I saw. I saw one reference to they were fallen angels that fell into the sea, became Selkie. So
So they're trying to climb back to heaven in your version?
it didn't really say why they turned into seals, other than that they just did. It was just one reference in a
Makes sense.
article I read. It was the only reference, so I didn't give it much credit. But I thought it was
Yeah.
interesting that
Yeah.
fall into the sea, go back and forth between human and seal.
Yeah. I
Now,
mean, definitely because of the fact that there were so many that populated like this particular area of the Orkney and Shetlands where it's probably easier to blend in seal
Hmm.
form.
now, question for you: how often did you find that they could transform between human and seal? I found some that said it happened every full moon, and one that said once every 7 years.
Yeah, you found a lot more history than I did on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
there were
uh,
several references to seven, which also gives credits, which I guess gives some credence to the fallen angel. Well, since seven's supposed to be the perfect heavenly number.
yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought that. I think most of the sources I found said and they would change their skin at the full moon.
I love how like this creature is so like mythical. There's like so much mystery and like beauty behind it, and then the Gaelics just gave it such a boring name. They called it Selcha, which just means seal. It's just like you could have came up with like magical seal or beautiful, seal, but instead you're just like Selcha, whatever. I don't know why that was Italian, but it's fine.
Yeah. Uh,
I mean, you
and
bring up
these,
a valid point there.
yeah, and also like just the story of these things. I'm not sure if you have the same one that I do, Ashton.
I have the Fisherman's Tale.
Do you have
Yep.
the story of the Sea King and Queen?
I do not. So if
All
you want to go
right.
into that, could.
Yeah, so let me tell you guys about how the Selkies were created. The Sea King and Queen once lived happily with their many beautiful children. The children would spend all day frolicking amongst the coral gardens and lush meadows on the seabed, and their lives were full of singing and laughter. One fateful day, the Sea Queen fell ill. Nothing her king or the other sea folk could do would save her, and only weeks later she died. The Sea King and his children were bereft. The children missed their mother's comforting arms and her gentle voice, sending them to sleep at night. No longer could singing or laughter be heard in the coral caves and gardens. Despite this sorrow, the king felt it was his duty to remarry and provide the children with a new mother. The sea witch, an ugly individual, due to many years of bitter jealousy of others, quite fancied the opportunity to become queen and rule over all those who had caused her so much strife. She took advantage of the situation and convinced the Sea King to marry her. However, her jealousy over others continued, and she now targeted her ill feelings at the sea children, who, despite their sorrow, were still more beautiful than the queen could ever be, for they were graceful and kind of heart. The sea witch cast a spell on the king's children, turning them into seals, cursing them to never again be able to live in the kingdom. but to swim as seals forevermore in the ocean, apart from the one day a year they could shed their skin and take their true form on land. The king, in his fury, banished the sea witch to a cave in the darkest depths of the ocean, but no one could reverse the magic that had been done. And so the seals swim, and can often be found frolicking and singing near to the coast, amongst the shallows, as was the nature of the sea children.
Nice. Yeah, I actually was told that story a good when I was little. I don't
Mm-hmm.
really know why, but I was. I really like that story. Like, I just love like the back and forth and the consequences, and I guess that kind of answers why they ever change.
Yeah, and Sean, this one, the story says they are able to change form once a year.
It's an interesting one. I did not run across that, but so that would be random chance that you could run across the seal skin at that point, which would make it even more tragic that you kept them from changing.
Yeah.
Or in that
Now
case,
me
or
feeling really sad for Selkies.
Yeah, they
well,
kind of
actually, no. In
have a
that,
rough go.
actually, in that version, they'd probably be grateful you hid their seal skin, so they wouldn't have to return to the sea.
No, they still love the sea though. They're only able to have their true form on the land. They aren't able to have their true form in the sea. But I think they still have the love of the sea over
Yeah. Like
being
again, this
able
is
to have
Little
their true
Mermaid.
form.
Like Ariel would hate to leave the ocean forever. She has to live by the shore.
Yeah,
I'm now convinced that Ariel is a Selkie and not a mermaid. Just changed it to a mermaid because that's more fun for children. Even though I've read
it
the
could be.
original version, but that's also what
I
Hans
mean, it
Christian
wasn't.
Andersen did.
Let's say, wasn't the original version in wasn't it in Grimm's, right?
It's Hans Christian Andersen.
Maybe
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's Little
think it's
Mermaid.
its own standalone.
I think it was.
But
Wasn't it like Sleeping Beauty was in Grimm's? I think, right?
that might be
Yeah,
it. I don't have my copy of Grimm's next to me. It's in the living room.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd double check.
that sounds so grim. Did it?
God damn it! Why do we put up with
Oh.
you, honestly?
But anyway, guys, since we're telling stories, do you want to get into the story about the
Yeah,
fisherman, or do you want to
so
explain it a
the
bit
story
first?
of the yeah, yeah, yeah. So with I was gonna segue with that. So we talked about how people would steal skin, the seal skin. I don't know why that was so difficult for me to say, but people would steal the seal skin, and basically the stories of why they stole it, at least the most like predominant ones, have a lot to do with a man or a woman who is lonely and end up finding a version of the Selkie that is in human form, as we described. It's very, very beautiful and typically described as a woman with dark hair and deep, soulful eyes. Or the men are incredibly handsome and irresistibly charming. And they just kind of like fall in with these like people and like or the Selkies and basically just get so like enamored by them that they do something awful, which is to steal the seal skin because they know what a Selkie is. Stories have been passed on to them, so that's the only way that they can get into the water, and they don't really want them. And the story that I have of the fisherman's tale, it kind of starts off in the same like where a lonely fisherman lived alone on the coast of Scotland. Each day he cast his net into deep, mysterious waters. Until one morning, as the fisherman was walking along the shore, he heard a beautiful and sorrowful melody. He followed the sound to a hidden cove. There, on a rock, bathed in morning light, sat the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her long brown hair cascaded down her back, and her eyes held the depths of the sea. Beside her appeared to be a sealskin. He remembered his grandfather's tales to never intrude on a Selkie's life, but he was overcome by her beauty and his own loneliness. He snatched the skin and hid it in his coat. The Selkie wept with sorrow as the fisherman offered her a place to stay. The Selkie reluctantly agreed to go with him, having nowhere else to go. They married soon after and had children. The family was known for their ethereal beauty, but often she would cry out to the sea in a language that no one understood. One day, while the fisherman was out, the son discovered the sleek seal in an old abandoned trunk. It was no longer sad and was filled with love and hope renewed. She grabbed her skin, said her farewells, and ran out to the shore. The fisherman saw her on his way home, and he tried to call for her, but it was too late. He saw at last that although there was love for him, her love for the ocean carried on. She disappeared soon after into the sea. On quiet nights, it is said that the family would still see a lone seal watching them with intelligent eyes. On the wind, they would hear a bitter song of love lost and eternal love of the sea.
It's pretty sad, huh?
Yeah.
It's, yeah,
Uh,
it's very sad. It's kind of the with Selkies, with like whether you believe them or if you think that's an allegory, it's basically a warning of imposing human will upon nature and of keeping others from their true nature. And that's kind of like depicted in this story is like kind of a warning of both about
Yeah.
how like one will always yearn to return to where they belong.
Yeah. Also, I wonder how beautiful they would have to be worth stealing their seal skin from.
Yeah. I mean, I would say extremely beautiful, but I also know some pretty gross men, so it wouldn't take very much for some people.
That's true.
like, oh, hey, this means I get a free wife who has to live with me forever and has no say in it. That's what some men would do.
Indeed.
Some men did that.
Yeah, it's just like, well, I mean, like,
Some men
it wasn't.
definitely did.
I mean, it wasn't even that long ago. Like, a teacher once who was bragging about how he stalked his now wife until she agreed to go on a date with him. It's just like, that's not romantic. That's just creepy. Like, maybe
Yes.
this guy was just like, if I steal this, then I am romantic.
Yeah.
To
It's
be
like, yeah,
fair
she
on
kept
the
turning me
whole
down, but I
stalking
just
thing,
kept asking till she finally gave in.
He was the
to be
only
fair on
guy
the whole
in
stalking
town.
thing,
Uh,
I mean, my wife stalked me until I went out with her, so
You two work together. That is not stalking.
I mean, a little bit stalkery.
So, did you guys get anything on how they were able to control storms?
No, I saw
And
nothing about that.
no.
oh, yeah, I just saw like a brief mention of some stories them as being able to control storms, attract seals to them, and to live for centuries. Speaking of storms, here's Sean with the weather.
In breaking news, we have sightings of the Jersey Devil giving a donut to the squonk in Juneau, Alaska. What those two are doing so far from home, we're not really sure, but keep your eyes out on that. The Goat Man of Texas has been spotted in Ripley, Virginia for some reason. And why he's doing in West Virginia, nobody really knows. But why would anybody want to go there? And to our listeners in Frazeysburg, Ohio, it is going to be cold overnight with mostly clear skies.
All right. Thanks for that, Sean. Don't hate on Ripley, West Virginia. It's a very nice town. And now to you, dear listener. We truly appreciate your support of the podcast. You can reach out to us at any time by emailing us at thenightscholarspodcast@gmail.com. If you ever just, maybe want to say hi to us, or really preferably send us your own experiences with the paranormal. Anything that's strange really works. Other than that, you can head on over to thenightscholarspodcast.myshopify.com to get a sticker or a shirt actually depicting the first weather anomaly he spoke of, the Jersey Devil giving the squonk a donut to cheer him up. And with that, let's get back to the episode.
And so they control the weather, and I think that's pretty badass of them.
Yeah, I mean that is a pretty cool power to have.
Is this our first cryptid that's had anything to weather influencing so far?
Perhaps, but if they are with the Nuclevi, it is nice that since both of these are around the Orkney Island, that the people have some help coming from the Selkies, not completely alone.
That's true. Because they could make it rain, and the rain keeps away the Nuclevi.
Yes. And it also helps out all of their
Um,
clubs, which makes the Nuclevi weak. And whatever the giant entity is of all the things that the Nuclevi is under.
Yeah.
I have a memory of things that were 2 weeks ago. Anyways, to the episode, if you want more detail on that, I'm not going to help you at all. That's Ashton.
Future Ashton is gonna try and find one of these Selkies and marry her.
I
Or
mean,
him. There are male Selkies, so I'm not gonna say anything.
yeah, I mean, they are both beautiful.
Would you be able to tell if they're male or female by the shape of the skin, or would you just know whenever they showed up at your house demanding the return of their skin?
I mean, I think I would know. It's like a sense slash they probably keep it very close by them, so I would see which one it was.
Oh, yeah, you would. Yeah, it stays within a few feet of them from what I understand.
I kind of wonder if they're like manatee way where they trust humans and they don't realize that humans could hurt them.
Uh, could be.
I think they might have started.
I don't really know much
Might still believe that they
seals
could.
and how trusting they are.
Yeah.
Seals are assholes.
They're fine.
And then I was gonna go
That's if you're a
into
penguin.
have either of you watched Song of the Sea?
I have not.
So it's a very, very beautiful animated film. I've not watched it in a few years. I was going to watch it before this episode, but it's no longer on a streaming service that I use.
Mm.
And it kind of into like the lore of the children, which I don't think we've really gone into too much on this. Even if the Selkie is marrying a human, having children with them, the children will still have characteristics of the Selkie,
Hmm.
including physical ones like webbed toes and webbed fingers.
Oh.
I did see that. It makes it easier for them to morph in and out of the sea.
Yeah. I didn't really have like else on them. I know in the movie she's able, like the girl who is a Selkie, is able to swim very well even in her human form, and so I would assume that the children are also very great swimmers.
You know, the webbed fingers and toes kind of reminds me of this like fever dream of like a mermaid movie that I think I saw on like Disney years ago.
Oh,
God.
yeah, that used to be one of my favorite movies. I rewatched that one time it came on. I don't remember the movie year. The 13th year, is that it?
Maybe.
With the male mermaid?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the male mermaid? Yeah, 13th year.
I don't remember
The dude
much
turns
of it. It
into
was like
a
a fever
mermaid
dream.
when he turns 13. No, it was my favorite. He was
Oh,
like on the school swim team and he was like suddenly really, really fast and like beat whales. And he was already good. And then he just gets so much better. And then he's kind of into this girl and then he's embarrassed to show her like the what. And then she's just like, oh. And I think they go on a mission to find his mom and dump him into the ocean. He has a choice on whether he wants to learn his mermaids or not. I love that movie.
You remember a lot more than I do.
a fever dream? Are you discussing?
Look, the main character was very cute, and I had a big crush on him.
That's fine. I'm sure. I'm sure next episode
Nerd.
Ashton will tell us about the horse whisperer.
Probably. Spoiler alert.
Would that even work on the next episode? Actually, you know what? We'll save that question for next week.
Yeah.
Which I think that brings us to our final question. Do you believe in this thing?
I would absolutely believe in this thing, but unfortunately, I do not.
And with how much you were thirsting over it in the group chat, I am surprised by your answer.
And I just thought that might be how this episode goes, but it's half. I just don't really go for that.
Say yes to this thing. I do believe in it. It seems one of the nicer entities we've come across on here, and it just seems like something playful you could run across in the sea.
Yeah. I think they're real. I don't think I would steal their seal skin, but I would love to befriend one.
Oh yeah, there was a story about one that helped a human fisherman with his, or not fisherman, but a human with his sheep that were lost in the sea.
Mm-hmm. They're very helpful.
Indeed. Hooray for choosing a nice cryptid. We'll see you next time.
Thank you again, our ghosts and goblins, for listening to the Night Stories. You all be good to each other. Don't answer the scratching at your window.
Or do.
But most importantly, stay safe out there.
Good night.